Awesome. What's going on, guys? Lucas Jensen here with the Forward Thinking Podcast. Today, I got a super special episode. I'm here with Nick Slavik, chair of the PCA, proprietor of Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Company, and all around just an amazing person, very well known in the industry. So super excited to have you here, man.
No, thanks for the opportunity. And I'm Canadian today, I am in Vancouver. So you caught me traveling. So this is kind of a fun place to be. People don't normally recognize the background. I'm usually in my war room or something else. So this is unique. This is a one-off for you, my friend.
Absolutely, man. So I flew Nick out here just for this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So how's the Canadian life treating you so far?
Dude, it's great, man. So last year, I actually took the biggest family vacation we did was a bush plane out into the middle of Ontario with the family. Canada has a special place for me. It's like I'm a wilderness guy and we have some in Minnesota, but you guys have the stuff that I really want, like the real wilderness out here. So I'm a fan, and they're such nice people. Like I was saying, it's an extension of Minnesota. Minnesota's an extension of Canada, and it feels comfortable here.
Yeah. People are very, very nice, man. Especially like in the summer. I don't know if you've been up here in the summer yet, but it's like right now, I'm sure people can see it's like snowing like crazy behind me. Like we just had like a blizzard and this is spring, So, but in the summer, especially like I'm in Montreal. After like we have like the F1 that comes up here, which is really, really cool. And then we have like Jazz Fest. We have a bunch of festivals. So, I mean, the people here are amazing. Like any type of culture of food is available and it's just unreal, So it's a beautiful thing, man. So welcoming you with warm arms to Canada.
Thanks, man. It's always good to be here. So, yeah.
So where are you off to next? Are you traveling still?
Yeah. So let's see. So this week was Vancouver. Next week, I'm going to Kentucky. I've never done anything professional in Kentucky. So I'm really looking forward to that next week. And then I think the week after, I go one state over from Minnesota, Milwaukee, for one of the biggest, craziest pro shows in the country. So there'll likely be, I don't know, maybe 900 or 1,000 contractors in Milwaukee for that event. Smokes. And then I only look a couple weeks in advance. So I know my schedule's out there, but that's what's coming up for me next. So
that's insane, man. That's like almost, how many people came to the expo? What was like the final head count?
1,021. So yeah,
wow.
it's incredible, man. Yeah, it's incredible. And obviously those Sherwin-Williams pro shows are different. People aren't flying in for 3 days of education. It's kind of just painters bumping in and pumping out. But no, it's really good, man. It connects me with a lot of people, especially, even though they are Wisconsinites. I don't look down on them that much, but I will go over there and commune with them a little bit. And we are similar. So
yeah, I love that, man. I love that. How long have you been with the PCA?
Yeah, so I think it's been at least 8 years now. I've been a member. I've been on the board for at least 3 years now. And yeah, it's been really interesting. So the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association, it's a 140-year-old nonprofit that's mission is to build better contractors. And I am literally the living embodiment of what this sort of organization claims to do. I was a single owner operator. Somebody dragged me into my first expo in New Orleans, and I met the people, and it changed my life. It was just, they literally built a better contractor. So it's been a really amazing journey. About the same time I met the PCAs, the same time I got serious with my business. It's about the same time I started Ask a Painter. So literally, like, every interesting thing that people know about me has happened in and around and because of the PCA.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Yeah. So 8 years ago, you purchased your membership. Fast forward 5 years, you became like in the chair of the PCA. So when was the first ever expo you went to?
When was it? Boy, I want to say I'll get the year wrong, but it was in New Orleans. And I'm guessing it was 2016-ish, give or take. But it was life altering, and they had people welcome me with open arms. They included me, and there was a debate on the main stage between two groups of contractors, and they sort of pitted us against each other with a topic, and we were forced to argue in old school debate style for one or the other. And it was my first expo ever, and they included me in it, and it was just like, what a great group of people that give me a chance to do that. So.
I love that. Do you still run into people that went to that first one? Like in the one we just had in Orlando. Have you met people that you met in that first one that still like attend?
Absolutely. So the very interesting story. Many people don't know this. in my first expo, I was making some waves on social media, and I was this like young, curious contractor, and social media influencing was kind of new at the time. And I was just very prominent, very loud, lots of posting, and that was new for our industry. So they invited me to do some stuff at this expo. And it was one of the most interesting experiences of my life because the moderator of this panel dressed me down in front of the entire audience, in front of all of the 800 people that were there in attendance. He goes, at that time, I don't know if you remember, people used to call people hipsters, and it was a derogatory term because I wore like, pearl button shirts and I had a beard, and people called me a hipster, right? And so I showed up there, and he literally kind of dressed me down in front of the audience, and I turned around and dressed him down and got a standing ovation. And none of that's caught on camera. But there's probably about 100 people that still show up to Expo that remember me dressing down the moderator, telling him how I'm not a hipster in front of the entire crowd. And it's it was a formative sort of event in my life. I wish it would have been caught on camera. It wasn't, but that's a touchstone for me and a lot of people.
I love that, man. I love that. That's crazy. So how much has the Expo changed from that first time you went in 2016 to this last one that we just had? Like what's kind of your biggest takeaway of like, wow, man, this is like a whole new pace?
Well, where do you even start? The PCA completely has a new vision, new strategy. I mean, and we've rebranded, we've renamed. The first expo I ever went to was kind of the last version of the Old Boys Club, give or take. And this wasn't a bad organization. It was great. It was just getting dusty from decades and decades and decades of just sort of like not innovating. And its clients, the social media generation and the hipsters showed up, and we just wanted something different. And it wasn't bad. We honored the legacy of the PCA, but just like our businesses, it was clear it needed to modernize. And modernize we did. New name, new branding. We moved away from a real heavy like vendor show. We got one of the best trade shows ever, but it was literally just vendors and people who made software doing 3 days of presenting. And now we go heavy into outside resources. We go into our own members presenting content. And the biggest change ever is, I mean, you were at the last expo. I know you didn't sit in on every single education session because it's impossible, but we're talking about family life balance, mental health, wellness, empathy, taking care of others, high net profit, accountability. Like these are things where, all we were interested in is how many vans you got, how many guys you got, what's your revenue before. And now we're working into this completely holistic thing of like, great, let's make as much money as we can, but let's take care of ourselves and our families as well too. And the old version wasn't bad. It's just, we just want to provide more value. It's been a huge change, man.
Yeah. There were some really, really cool presenters on the one I stopped in. Like Tara Riley was there. We had some going on at the same time I was presenting, so I didn't get to stop in. But like, we had a bunch of clients doing like the sales panel, which I heard was like an amazing one. Like there was like, he's not a client, but Ron Adams was there, Nick Kelly, Matt Highfill, like a bunch of really, really cool people in the industry doing like the whole sales panel. I know Maggie was doing like the running the business with like a couple kind of thing. And he had like other couples there too, which is just so unique. Yeah. It's really, really cool. So you find the biggest difference is more like before is more like flaunting. And now it's more like educational of like, where can you provide even more value for all the attendees?
Yeah. And I really want to couch it in. It's not like we went from bad to good. It was just, we refocused the PCA on a way more holistic look at what we all do. And before, the PCA focused super heavily on the tangibles, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, what kind of app do you use for estimating? And, is there a time punch app, or is there a codings and stuff? And it's like, those are all like the most easily solvable things in our industry. And meanwhile, we're all struggling with all the things that actually makes business hard. It's the people. And it wasn't that people centric. It was tech centric, thing centric, system centric. And we still have tons of that stuff, man. But now we're really taking a holistic look at like, well, what are your actual pain points? And what I think my and Jason Paris's biggest contribution to our time in leadership at the PCA is focus grouping the industry and actually figuring out that the biggest problem with our industry is people being lonely. And, starting a business, man, and especially in a regressive, fragmented industry, there's not a lot of camaraderie here naturally. And it can get super lonely. Being a business owner is one of the loneliest things on earth, because only a single-digit percentage of humans in the United States will ever do it. And now you're in a painting industry and everybody thinks you're the enemy. You're literally solitary. And this is hard, man. And so we took that idea of, this is a hard thing to do and it's lonely. Mm-hmm. And we basically said, what would help this make it easier and connect people? And that's the PCA that we've modernized to.
Yeah. So many like people I talk to, it's like, I asked them like, what was like the pivotal moment in their business that took them, for example, from like 250,000 to $1 million, or $1 million to 5 million. And so many people, like the most like, common answer to that is the PCA. It's like the people I met at the PCA, because you see people like scaling their business, and then that makes you think like, okay, they're doing it, I can do it too. It like kind of like, resets your expectations. And dude, you nailed that point of like, running a business is hard, growing a business is harder, and then scaling a business is only for like the 1%. And that type of stuff, like it requires camaraderie, consistent improvement, collaboration, and refinement, So
it does.
I love that, man.
Dude, the PCA is the cheat code. Like, and anybody who's ever been here knows it. And we try to tell as many people as possible, but all the things that you suffer from, how do you schedule? What do you charge for X? Do you hire people? What should you pay people? All those things are solved at the PCA. And we're all standing here. Anybody who's been inside is standing there saying, hey guys, over here, we just can't reach enough people. And every single thing that we need to solve as business owners is solved. The technical solutions are here, but the people to actually help you solve them alongside you are here too. So it is the cheat code for what we do.
Yeah, 100%. Because any issue you run into your business, it's not unique. Like there's somebody out there that experienced the exact same thing that also
Lucas,
found a solution.
Listen, man, I feel really safe getting kind of spicy with the industry. I can say a lot of like very forward things because I was literally that guy. I thought in growing this business, I was the only one to have ever experienced a problem with an employee. Right? I was the only one to ever not know what to charge for X because I'm a delicate little flower. I'm so unique, and I'm a snowflake. And it's like, no, you're not. These are all things every business owner does. And we think it's so precious. And it's not. These are just things that business owners have to solve. It's just a lot easier to do it with other people. Yeah,
exactly. They've already solved it before. You know what I mean? And
everybody has. Everybody but you has solved it.
I love that, man. It's so true because like, that's something that I admire so much about the painting industry is just like the sense of community. Like Tanner has that group on Facebook. It has like 190,000 painting contractors. The PCA is just this beautiful kind of nonprofit that's just its main purpose is to help people grow. And it's such a beautiful community that you guys have all put together, dude. So it's hats off to you for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting that being a Minnesotan with negative self-esteem, it's very hard for us to say we are unique, right? Because remember just what we talked about. But the longer I do this, people challenge me all the time and say, Nick, what we're doing here at the PCA and what this industry is super unique. This doesn't happen all the time. And we're at the big boom happened not far ago and the stars are forming in the universe now. And that's what's happening in our industry. Like things are starting to happen. We're at the advent of a lot of big things and people constantly challenge me to say, Nick, this isn't happening everywhere else. And the types of personalities and camaraderie that we're attracting and creating here doesn't happen everywhere else. And I always kind of give it oh, come on, we're not unique, remember? But we actually are. And this is a fun industry and this is unique. Like you get at the life insurance salesman expo, it ain't the same. It ain't the same, man. It's just a different group of people with different priorities. And we are truly unique here. And I appreciate it more and more every day.
Love that. How'd you even get into the painting industry? What's the story what's Nick Slavik's story?
Yeah. So I was forced into it by my father. This is year 32 for me.
Wow.
Obviously, I haven't been working full-time 32 years in the industry, but at 10 years old, I was forced into this industry by my father in the family business. And I was basically an indentured servant, evenings, weekends, holidays, everything else. Like I just served my family and my family happened to be painters. So it was that. I went 4 years of active duty Army right after high school. I got a GI Bill, which paid for most of college. I went to college, specifically tried to learn how to run a business. So I have a bachelor's degree in business with 2 forms of accounting as minors. And then I came back to rejoin my family business and basically just help grow the business. And my dad just told me there's no place for you. So that was 16 years ago. And I went off on my own, started my own business. And yeah, so this has been, 32 years in the industry now, associated. My life has been basically lived as a painter around painters in this industry for 32 years now.
Love that. So were you born and raised in Minnesota?
Born and raised in Minnesota. Actually, my town is called New Prague. It's named after Prague, Czechoslovakia, the capital there. And I was born and raised there, and my business is based there. And I absolutely love it there. I've traveled around as much as you know, and I've seen a lot. And there's a lot of beautiful places, Vancouver being one of them, most of Canada. But I am very biased for my hometown, for the business community, the humans, the school districts, the wilderness, the lakes. And I think we're in a Goldilocks zone of business is ripping, schools are world class, land is cheap. Not like Vancouver. And it's a great place to raise a family. And, when your last name has been associated with the painting industry in your town for almost 50 years, you don't take that for granted,
Mm-hmm. Is your father still running his company?
Technically retired last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
You pushed him out of business. He took all the work.
Well, what's interesting is, I don't know. After you can imagine when my father told me that there's no place for me in the business, or that I could be a laborer the rest of my life for him. It was a little bit of a surprise, because in college, I was tailoring my college education, asking my father, what does this business need? I am going to serve this family business. Mm-hmm. And it was a complete surprise that he had no place for me. And it was very emotional. And because of that, we haven't spoken in a lot of years, and it's completely fine. It's not what father and son should do, but it was his business and his choice. I honor that. I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I've had since leaving his business. The painting business was a freedom machine for him, because I had a great childhood, relatively, like we lived in okay neighborhoods. We always had the things we need, and it was all kind of built by my father's hands. And, probably didn't make a few good business decisions later in life, because for what people know me now, my business, Ask a Painter, the PCA, I would have gladly done for him. Mm-hmm. Didn't find a need for that. And so at some point you just have to say, moving on. So
yeah. Gotcha. How different do you think like your situation be? Because you're definitely an industry leader, right? There's no doubt about that. How different do you think your situation would be if you did take that over? Do you think, what you're doing right now for the industry would be any different? Or, maybe there's some trials and tribulations that you ran into of starting your business that kind of led to where you are now? Or
yeah, I think, it's interesting. Somebody actually asked me that last night when we were all gathered around after the event, and I hadn't really thought about it in a while, but I think I biologically always had this urge to be a servant leader, right? Like, I'm involved in community groups. I'm involved in my kids' sports and schools and all this. And the PCA just happened to be there and to leverage my ability and need to be a servant leader. I'm going to give back somehow and go outside myself to be involved in other people's lives. The PCA just made it easy. I think the limiting factor, I don't think everything would have been replicated exactly, because I think a lot of my energy would have been devoted to the tenuous relationship with my father instead of growing a business. So it's likely that family business and working for your father and partnership and actually trying to run a professional business probably would have sucked all the oxygen out of the room. And I'm envisioning a world where Ask a Painter doesn't exist. My painting company certainly doesn't exist, and I don't know the PCA exists. So that's a weird reality. I would rather not be in that, but that's one possibility on the decision tree.
Mm-hmm. And you just got to kind of have gratitude towards that too. It's like when things like that happen, it's like you were saying, like, it is emotional, and I appreciate you opening up about that, but it is very emotional, and you're kind of like, man, what now? You know what I mean? But we always find a way around, and it's like the way you find things, like you go around things leads to the next step and the next step and the next step. And even if you don't see like the kind of end result of it, it's like everything happens for a reason, as genuine as that is to say, or generic is to say, but I agree. It's a beautiful thing, man. Things always work out.
Yeah, and that's a very mature thing for you to say is the gratitude thing. And you know, it's been a great life lesson, and it's a very like fond memory to think back on. I was a 25, 26-year-old kid. I had been to a couple wars. I have a college degree. I'm a really good painter. I've been doing it since I was 10. I love painting. I'm really good. I love it. And at that time, I had a lot to offer somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know I could best offer it to myself, you know, and I always thought about serving others, especially your family business. And you do at when I was that age, I had a lot of life experience, but not the wisdom that comes with age. And if I'm being honest, I wanted to crush my father. I wanted to run such a good business and to affect his professional life so bad, I would have to run him out of town. And that's the opposite of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
That is the horribly regressive thoughts of a man in his middle 20s without enough life wisdom yet. And I look fondly back on that because that was a very formative time in my life. At that age, I could only think those thoughts, right? I'm grateful for that time. I wish I would have made other choices at that time, but I'm grateful for the opportunity because everything I have now and the person I've become is because of my father's decision to not include me in his business. And
Mm-hmm.
in some weird way, I am grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that, man. And if it wasn't for painting, what industry, like what would Nick Slavik be known for?
Yeah. Well, so I have this thought a lot too. And I like to be, one of the things that I challenge myself to do is be objective.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say, wow, Kismet, the universe aligned, and I was created to be a house painter. And wouldn't you guess, my father happened to be a house painter. What are the chances of that happening? So I am very real with the fact that if my father was a wildlife biologist, I might exert this much enthusiasm and passion in wildlife biology, right? I'm agnostic to that fact. At some point, I deeply believe that a life truly lived is somebody who finds their passion, a true passion, and it could be many, right?
Mm-hmm.
Finds their true passion, consistently, intentionally practices it to the point where they get very good at it. And then you consistently challenge yourself to get outlier results. And I honestly believe it. If my dad was a music teacher, I might have devoted this to music. So I'm agnostic to the fact that I probably wasn't singularly put on this planet to be a paint business owner. But when I found my passion, I'm not one of those guys who's going to look for greener pastures. I love waking up every day, and I'm not going to take it for granted at all. So
Love that. Love that. So you joined the PCA 8 years ago, right? So there was some point of view that was just like you wanted to kind of join a community, and it kind of flipped the switch, right?
I got dragged into it.
Oh, okay.
So actually, do you know Jason Paris, right?
Yeah.
So he was the one. I am so introverted. I'm so passive aggressive. I would have never been in the PCA without Jason. Jason reached out via Instagram. This is the first time we had ever spoken or met as two business owners in Minnesota. And he's like, "Hey man, like we're both business owners here. Why don't we talk to each other?" And I was like, "Why would we do that? You're the enemy, right?" And he's way more progressive than I am. And he's like, "No, we're not, stupid. Like, what are you doing here? Like, we're the opposite enemy. We should actually collaborate." I'm like, whoa. And he's like, "Hey, Nick, a natural thing for professionals to do in an industry is to like join industry groups, nonprofits and stuff to better the industry and better yourself." I'm like, I don't even know what the PCA is, right? I thought it was a labor union when I first found out about it. So literally, he was the one who got me introduced to it, and he's the one who taught me about collaboration and openness. And he was also the one to call BS on every single thing that I was telling him because it was all feelings based and not data based. So I owe a lot of who I am in this industry to him.
Yeah, he's a good dude. So
best.
You got into the PCA because he slid in your DMs.
Yep, he slid in my DMs, and then the PCA slid into both our DMs. And so I would not be where we are. Yeah, again, it's one of those things. If my father wouldn't have got rid of me, if Jason Paris wouldn't have DM'd me on Instagram, you could envision another reality where I'm not in any of this, and that's a weird thing.
Yeah, it is a weird thing. It is a really weird thing. So how did you make that transition? Like, how did you become like on the chair of the PCA, like on the board?
Yeah. So servant leadership, I tend to be an extremist, right? If I'm going to grow a business, I'm going to grow an extreme business. If I do Ask a Painter, if I'm going to be an influencer, I'm going to do an extreme version. If I'm going to travel, I'm going to do extreme. And the same thing with the PCA, which is when I find something that I can leverage and really give back and force multiply. So it's always fun to like give an hour of your time and create an hour of value. But what I'm interested in giving 10 hours of your time and creating 1,000 hours of value. And the PCA is like the best lever for that. So if you, Lucas, want to get involved and 1,000x your time, you could make an argument that in this industry, you're never going to find anybody to do that. And the PCA, I love the people so much. They continually found things for me to do, and they brought me up through the ranks. And very early on, they were grooming me to be a leader in this industry. Whether they knew it or not, they kept giving me challenges. They kept giving me responsibilities, and I took every one. I loved it. And as soon as they started, somebody proposed, well, Jason was the youngest board chair in 140-year history of this organization. And me and him are peas and carrots in this industry, right? So immediately when he started rising up through the ranks, he brought the board together and was sort of like, hey guys, we should really start thinking about like grooming Nick. And everybody's like, oh, great. You two Minnesota guys, you're just bringing up one of your own, right? And at that time, my business wasn't as professional as it is now. And I was certainly not maturing as a leader as much as I have now. So it was a hard sell. And Jason recounted a lot of this discussions where even after I got on the board, people were still objecting a little bit like, listen, we can see some potential here, but he's not a vetted leader. He's not been doing this forever. He's only been in this organization a few years. And I don't blame him for that. I would be skeptical too, but they took a bet on me. And when somebody does that, I will repay you 100-fold. And I have.
I love that. And you said you're like an extremist too. So like that comes down to like a competitive bone. So I'm assuming you kind of grew up with sports and stuff also, right?
So here's the deal. It's competitive, but you got to view it through an introverted, passive-aggressive Minnesotan. I do not like head-to-head. Like I was a distance runner. I do not like 100-meter dash because you're literally 2 inches away from the shoulders of another person. Mm-hmm. I like a good 5K where you can get out and you can pace yourself and you're running your own race and you can kind of distance yourself from people. So I like competition, and I'm by default competitive, but I don't like to do it shoulder to shoulder with people. I love my painting business because I just go to Minnesota, to Little New Prague, and I execute hardcore. And I don't have a business owner right next to me executing as well too. I like competing on my own and on my own merits.
Love that. I love that. So what does your day-to-day look like in the painting business? Because I mean, you're doing a lot of traveling, right? So it's probably pretty kind of taken care of.
Yeah, so sort of. And I want to be really honest with people. People see me traveling and they think, oh, Nick, your business runs itself. It does not. My business does not run itself. It needs me every single day, and in spurts. So one of the things I've got really intentional about is my schedule this year. About 5 years ago, I gave my painters a 4-day work week, and we've got the business to a stable, professional enough place where I gave my leadership team a 4-day work week too. And what this creates for me is, we all try to lay out some goals for the year. One of my biggest goals is to be a consistent manager of this company. And so Monday through Thursday, 7 to 5, I'm in the office with my people, supporting them. And one of the hats I wear is operations manager, connecting, the connection glue between estimating, coordination, production, labor, and all that other stuff, and finding all the little efficiencies between there, supporting them in a big way, one-on-one meetings. And then I actually work from home on a Friday. So I have my little war room, my office on my beautiful farm with glass all the way around it. And I have some coffee. I don't do any fitness on a Friday morning. I have breakfast with my kids in my island with my laptop doing work. And it's this beautiful hybrid freedom style life where I do hardcore devote myself to the business and the PCA and some Ask a Painter stuff Monday through Thursday. But Friday is I call it my snow day, my entrepreneur day, because you're from Canada too. When you were a kid and you would have a snow day. It's like the most delightful day on the planet. I don't have to go to school and look at outside. It's great. Every Friday I wake up now like it's a snow day because I have my list of visionary entrepreneur stuff that I get to do all day Friday. And I mix in breakfast with the family, maybe lunch with my wife, maybe a walk with my dog. And then I hammer work. And then I do other stuff. We take a podcast, we take a meeting. And it's this beautiful life that I've crafted now. And then usually Saturday morning, Ask a Painter, and then super intentional with family time.
I love that, man. I love that. And I love that kind of vocabulary that you put on that too. It's like, I get to do this, not I have to do this, or like, because that kind of little change up in vocabulary, it sets the pace. Like, it doesn't seem like a big difference, but it is a big difference, because now you're just like, it feels like it's like a reward rather than a task at hand. So that's awesome.
Well, you know, what's really interesting when we compare like quarterly goals, because, you know, a lot of us pretentious business owners love to start talking about, if you're a traction guy, the rocks and the quarterly goals and the metrics and all that. And it's kind of a business bro-y thing to do, but it's actually a very good, like, having a goal and then making incremental progress towards it. Actually, the most effective way to go through life. And the most interesting goal, and I have 4 people helping me with this. One of my most interesting goals is actually limiting my time with all this stuff, because I love it. I mean, I can crush hours like nobody. I can get up at 4 and I can work till 3 a.m, just hammering. It's not good for my businesses, and it's not good for my family. So one of my goals is actually limiting my time, sleeping in a little more, so that my clock aligns with my wife's clock, so we can actually spend some time together, and sort of like aligning my life with my family, and then filling in with my business along the way, and putting boundaries on things. So the hardest thing for a guy like me, and probably like you, is to just not crush hours, set amount of hours, and just be better with the hours you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of have more structure in it.
That's it. Be intentional about your time. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. See, I'm in a period right now where I'm living the bachelor life, you know. I'm a single guy in my 20s, living alone, and all I got is my family and my business, you know. So yeah. I'm just like, I am putting in those hours, but with intention too. You know, I like to do time blocking. Like, I have, you have your notepad. I got mine here.
That's it.
Where I just block off like deep work session, you know, 6:30 to 8, and then team stuff. And you know what I mean? Like, just blocking it off and knowing what you're doing, like planning tomorrow, today kind of situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of unneeded debate about like cowboying and founding and growing and scaling versus like professional CEO, manager, this and that. And it's not a vice versa, and it's not a debate. It's, you need one at one time in the business. So again, before I grew my family, and as I was growing this business, crushing hours is what you have to do. Like, you literally just have to put in as many hours as you can, because there are just piles and mountains of tasks to grow a business from nothing. But once you do get to a professional point, you need to stop being a firefighter and founder and scaler, and you need to just be a consistent professional manager. And that's a transition I have gone through, and I'm arguably still going through. It's a very tough thing, but there is a time in every business owner's life where you literally need to be extreme, and then you don't have to be extreme. Then you have to be consistent, which is hard.
Yeah. And what point would you say is like the, because it's obviously not like the same point, like you hit, you know, $777,000 in sales and you flip lever, and, you know, but
no, that's actually the number.
But is there like a certain point where someone would go from just, you know, putting in those hours, just, you know, rolling up their sleeves and getting it dirty, to
100%,
actually showing up as, you know, consistently?
I think the cowboy cowgirl phase is historically $1 million to $1.5 million, because that's basically, you know, in a painting business, residential painting business, you're doing the estimating, you're doing the project management, and you have subs and W-2s, and you can get to about $1 million. You're working a ton of hours. You're doing everything, every estimate, every gallon of paint ordered, every job site visit, the book work, the market, everything. And that's not really sustainable for the most part. So at that point, you see people break 2 ways. They either keep trying to grow and staying a cowboy, and then things get real frictiony. That's the story you hear about. I got big, I didn't like it, it's all just headaches, I went back down. And there's people who just go back down. And the biggest problem, I think, with that, when you hear that proverbial story of, I once had 18 guys, it was too much of a headache, I went back down. It's because that person was still in firefighter mode, and they weren't in boring, stable, consistent manager mode. Like, the mode that your company needs when you have that many employees is office hours, one-on-ones, consistent meetings, consistent accountability, support, empathy, things like that. And what they don't need is somebody showing up on a job site, rattling trash can lids, and then completely changing the business systems, then disappearing for 3 weeks. I mean, that's what a visionary founder scaler does, but it's not what a professional company needs. So I think this is something that not a lot of people think about, that I think our industry really should start like taking to heart, is If you want a business where you don't have to paint every day, or you don't even have to work every day, the minimum transition of that is you're going to have to do 1 to 1.5 million. You're going to have to then make the transition, the most difficult transition ever, from visionary to integrator. And then you're going to have to grow it to somewhere between 3 and 4.5 million. And then you might be able to step away a little bit. What lies between the end of that cowboy phase and baby professionalism is some of the most painful things you'll ever experience in your life, if you're being honest.
Mm-hmm. What's like the most painful thing people would typically run into?
The heartbreak of other humans. Mm. I mean, it's just being completely honest. It's never a painting issue. It's never an equipment issue. It's never a shop or a vehicle issue. It's the heartbreaking hero's journey of getting so many humans involved in your life. But I don't want to say like heartbreaking in the fact that all it is pain and suffering. My life is so much better because of the humans that I've encountered through my business. I've gathered up arguably the best pile of humans on the face of the planet. PCA, Ask a Painter, my painting company. But there's way more people who aren't here than are here. And me learning to be a leader, me learning how to lead people in the best way, me learning who's a good fit for my company. If you actually care about other humans as a human, this is going to be painful for you. And I deeply care, and I have deeply suffered for those around me, and trying to take care of them, trying to take care of your family, trying to make money. And then maybe you can take care of your own mental health at some point is a bonus, but that it's all just the humans, man. It's the humans.
Yeah, because we are in the business of people, right? Any service business in the business of people, So, what would you say is like the biggest constraint or challenge that you're running into right now with your current painting business?
The consistency of humans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so everybody's has a different risk and reward profile, and everybody's incentivized by different things. I am the most incentive. I will risk the most for the most reward. My name's on the company. I found my passion. What do you need from me? I'll do it. If it means to be a consistent manager, I'll be 14 minutes early to my office every day. I'll be the one to turn the lights on. And when you see some people who aren't consistent, they can't put together 40 hours a week, they can't consistently do even mediocre work or something like that, you think, this isn't a great strategy. I don't know if you know what you're doing, but you have a great support system around you. This is an amazing opportunity. And my God, we're trying to help you win here. And when somebody doesn't, it really makes you think like, it just really makes you think, I hope you're being intentional about your life, because without that much more effort, you could change your life. Like just doing some very minor things. But again, it's easy for me to say, I've grown a family. I have 4 kids. We have real estate. I've been to 2 wars. I have a college education, and I've started 3 businesses. I have a lot of life under my belt, and some things are very clear to me that aren't clear to other people. So this isn't me saying like these are bad people. This is just me saying, you have somebody here who has that life experience. I'm happy to be here shoulder to shoulder and yoke up with you and help you with this. It's very likely you're never going to have another human like me doing this. This is not me saying I am singular or this is the only place you're going to get it, but you have no resume. You have no life experience. You happen to stumble across this opportunity, and you don't know this is singular, but it is. Mm-hmm. And there's not going to be many supportive employers in your future like me. And I just hope someday you appreciate it, because I appreciate you. And I would really like to, I really think about other people quite a bit, a lot,
Yeah. Yeah. And I see the way you treat, PCA members, PCA board members, people tuning in to Ask a Painter. So I can only imagine how great you treat the actual people in your company, right? So I'm sure they do appreciate that.
I love my people more than anything else. This is a great thing. And I think probably the worst thing that I do to them, like if you asked all my people what the worst part about me is, it probably is I push. It's probably the worst thing about me as a leader, which is the problem is I know what humans are capable of without that much effort. And I push people real hard. And if I'm being completely objective and I was a shareholder in my company, I would probably urge me to back off a little bit.
But it's probably because like you said that you have a competitive nature, right? So you have a lot of expectations, like high expectations for yourself, right? And Slavic painting is your baby, right? It's in the core, it's your baby. So anybody that comes into that and touches that baby, you have high expectations for too. And if you see somebody's, dropping the ball or underperforming in one sense or another, you're on them because you recognize the potential they have in your company as a person in general, right? So you push them because you care about them at the end of the day.
I push them and I care because I like I told you, I'm real objective. If somebody comes to me and says, I want a lot of money and I want a lot of free time, I say, oh, lucky for you. We can do that together. And then when they don't take the steps to do it, that's called dissonance. And that pisses me off. Like that, I have an irrational reaction to something like that. It's like, you came here, you said you want a lot of money and a lot of freedom of time, and you're not taking the basic steps to do it. Now, listen, this is fine. You're a great human. You're performing very well. Any painting company in the United States would be happy to have you. But when you come to me and you said you want that, and I offer that to you, and we start trying to take steps to it and you don't do it, I think that's where bad leader Nick comes out and is just like, listen, man, all these things you desire in life, to have a stable life, make more money than you think you should, and have a lot of time off, all those things we can do together. And I have a rational reaction to people who don't follow up with actions when they say that's what they want. So,
yeah, because they're doing a disservice to themselves, right?
That's my perception, but I feel very gross trying to overlay my wishes for them on them. And that's where I stand back with all this and just say, Nick, this could be a big personality flaw with you. And this might not be the best way that you could manage your people. Maybe just providing opportunities, being supportive, and stop pushing people all the time. But I would make the argument for myself that for the high flyers, for the young Nicks, the young Lucases, the next people who are going to be outliers, I want a system that will capture them too. I don't want to coach and manage and run a business to the mean, to the average. I wanted to set up for rock stars so that they don't get bored and walk away. Like it would be heartbreaking if we coached to the mean and then lost all our rock stars. Like, so I do want a system set up for that, but finding that happy medium of pushing and then just, celebrating wins every once in a while when we get them this is the whole, like, this is my inner monologue as I made a transition from grower, founder, scaler to professional manager. Like, these are still things I struggle with and I don't have the answers to.
Yeah. But, like what we were talking about is like, there are other people that have the answers to it. You know what I mean? And any problem that we're facing right now is not unique, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So I know you're friends with like a lot of, big players in the industry. So have you talked about that, like, to any of them, and wondering like,
yes,
what would they do kind of that situation?
Yeah, I have four people that I regularly tap for perspective, coaching, mentoring, and everything else. And these are things we're all working through. And if I'm being completely honest, I think I know what needs to be done. They have some good ideas of what needs to be done. I just need to make peace with it. I need to believe it. I need to be there. So there's always that, like, dissonance is the gap between where you are and where you need to be. And when we have this friction, when we wake up in the middle of the night and we're just itchy and we just feel like life's not going the way you want it, I could do more. It's literally the dissonance between where you are and where you want to be. And every single month and quarter, those things come closer to me. And I've given into the fact that this is a long process for me to make this transition. And typically, I have some people close to me that say, Nick, we would never give people the advice to go from grower, founder, scaler to professional manager. And typically in business, are you a traction guy at all, Lucas?
No.
Okay, so there's a traction model out there that believes that there should be two people at the head of every business, a visionary and an integrator. The visionary is the extreme, the grower, the founder, scaler, the big picture, the big relationship. And the integrator is the boring manager who actually gets things done in the business. And my business isn't of a size where we can do that yet. So I have to be that person. So I've given myself the challenge to make that leap. None of the people I associate with would typically give people the advice to do that, because those are such different personality types. You're going to cause yourself stress and chaos. You may not even be good at it. And all those things might be true with me. I see it as a challenge, and I'm functioning in it. I'm doing okay, but I'm not fully realized. And there's still dissonance between where I am and where I want to be. And maybe I'll bring them together. Maybe I won't. And we'll just have to grow past this, and I'll hire somebody who's way better than me at this. And those are things I'm all open to.
Yeah. I love that, man.
Yeah.
I love that. That's
You're
awesome.
getting a lot of inner monologue today, man. This is all I think about. Like literally when I'm sitting on a plane filling out spreadsheets, all I'm thinking is, how can I be a better manager for my people? What are the personality flaws I have? What is stopping me from this? Can I make the transition? What if I can't? What if I can do the things, but I'm not good at it? You know, it's all these things go through my head all the time.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm a massive overthinker myself, you know? So it's like the smallest thing happens and I just think of all the possible chain effects that could come from it. And
the connection points go out, and but I think that's absolutely necessary for people who are entrepreneurs. I think it's necessary. I think if you're not constantly thinking about possibilities, you're going to be blindsided. And one of my highest developed skills when I take personality tests is future thinking. And that is kind of singular with entrepreneurs. And that's what makes us those weirdos. It's a unique thing. It makes us largely unemployable, right? But it makes us really good at this. We're like racehorses. We're good at one thing. Heaven forbid if we become an employee of, Best Buy, we'd have to shoot us like horses. So
I've never been into like, a corporate job or anything like that. So I rely on a lot of my team to tell me like how paid time off and things like that work, right? So
dude, you have no idea. So when I started offering like paid time off, and I hear about things called federal holidays where people typically have like, Independence Day off and Christmas off. And I used to go to my team and be like, what do normal people do at this time? Like what holidays do people take off? Because I didn't grow up in a family like that. So
yeah, it literally just happened like last weekend. It was like, it was Easter weekend. And I called one of my employees and I was like, hey, like, usually do you give Good Friday or Easter Monday off? Like, well, one or the other or both. So I was
That's
like,
crazy, man.
Yeah. So you mentioned a win. You said like celebrating your wins and something with your team. Do you want to share a recent win that really struck you where you're just like, oh man, this is awesome? In any realm, really, like either of the businesses, anything in general.
Yeah. So the thing that I am getting better at is celebrating the biggest wins, like just clearing above that everybody would recognize, like, oh my God, amazing work. The thing that I'm really struggling with is the wins that everybody else thinks are a win, but I still have this regressive thought about. So like probably a good example of that is we have a crew leader in my company who had a health concern and is out for the week. And his 18-year-old apprentice, who we've had, since high school growing up, has taken over the crew this week and done amazing work. And like the owner in me is like, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, this is what we train you to do. We were building future leaders, but put yourself in that person's shoes. That's monumental. You're 18 years old and you're taking over 2 job sites this week, doing everything yourself, professional level finishing, updates with the thing, working with our project managers. And regressive Nick thinks, great, you've completed your job description. You're performing very well. But really, as a good manager, I should be like, wow, that is singular. This company set up a system where somebody special like you has the opportunity to be a leader at 18 years old. This is
that's beautiful, man.
thing. And so like, those are the hardest things for me to celebrate, not because they aren't wins and we shouldn't celebrate them, but because, with my father, it took him 11 years of working together before he said good job to me once. I am not set up to say good job to people. And it's one of the things that I've had to work on the most.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So just like recognition, almost like
recognition,
verbal appraisal.
Yeah. And like, what do you praise? Don't praise people showing up on time, right? That's a thing that you should do.
That's an expectation.
Praise it when somebody does something that's hard for them and they achieve something. It may not be hard for you, but if it's hard for them, you need to recognize that and do that.
Yeah. And the only way to have that kind of recognition is to really understand them as a person. You know what I mean? Like having those one-to-ones and just like literally talking to people, like, understanding their goals and why they're doing what they're doing. You know what I mean? Because anybody
can go get a job. Empathy.
yeah, exactly. Just being just a nice human being, right? Like it's it's a beautiful thing, right? So I love that, man. That's an awesome win. So you had the 18-year-old take over 2 project sites. That's huge.
Yeah, it is actually huge. It's huge, man. And I'm very proud of this young person.
Yeah, amazing, man. So what's the next step? Like, what's 3 businesses, right? That you're helping grow. Ask a Painter Live, Slavik Painting, and then also the PCA. What's next?
Yeah. Number one, I take the board of directors of the PCA deadly serious, and I recruit for that harder than I even do for my own business. It is something where we are going to continually improve. We have created the greatest board of directors on earth. We have the next succession, the next 2 to 3 people in succession ready to go. We want to continually recruit for that. We have a new executive director, which we recruited and trained, and it's off to the races for that. So I think if my mission is to hand off this board of directors in either 1 or 2 years to the next chairperson of the board better than I found it. And we are 100% on track to do that. And it has taken a monumental amount of work for me and people previous to me.
Love that.
For Ask a Painter, we're starting a revisioning process of Ask a Painter this year. So Ask a Painter going on into the future in 2025 will likely change quite a bit and double down on what we do. My painting business, we have reached a level of professionalization and stabilization, which I've never experienced before. I'm going to continue to dwell in this for a little bit. We're contemplating the next jump, whether we will or won't, and what that looks like. So that'll be fun. And then I have a real estate holdings company as well too. And in my 40s now, by the time I'm done, I would like to lay down probably the biggest sort of investment of that in my life, which is a large commercial building that has many leasable bays in it that I can use as sort of a project, a legacy thing for the family that'll lay the groundwork for future investments like that. So
I love that. I know there's a Canadian marketing company that'll probably want to rent one from you.
I know, right? Well, it'll be a fun place to be because I'll likely have the world headquarters of my painting company and Ask a Painter there, but it'll just have a big rear, like a 300-foot section on the back for commercial bays. And I just want to be surrounded by other business owners. I want to leave a lasting family legacy, and I want to create opportunities for people in my hometown of New Prague. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be something my family can be involved in, and possibly other investors too. So
I love that, man. Have you ever looked into like one of those like shared office spaces where you have like specific areas and people could go in the common areas and work there? If a big kind of peak interest there is to meet other business owners, like having that availability, like the community where it's just like you have a big open space that people can rent, that could be really, really cool.
Good idea. I like meeting people, but remember, back to the introverted, passive-aggressive Minnesotan, I also recharge away from humans. So it's one of those, like right now, I have my office and my war room at my home, and that's the most peaceful place on earth. But we have a big open collaborative workspace where there's no offices in my current office building. So I think some combination of those things would be good. A private office to make a phone call, but then this beautiful open collaborative workspace too. So yeah.
I love that, man. I love that. And last thing here is I asked our client community, I told them that I'd be hopping on this podcast with you. And I said, does anyone have any questions they want me to ask Nick? So if it's cool with you, can I ask some questions?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So question number 1, I think this is something a lot of people have a question about. Okay. Where is the next expo going to be held?
It's so I'm trying to pitch a Woodstock style festival on my farm, like a whole bunch of days with live music, standing in my cornfield and bonfires. And I'm not going to tell you, man. No, we're rounding it out. We'll have a formal announcement soon. It'll likely be somewhere warm and south, and probably very easy to get to. So
you sure you don't want north in Canada?
Now, listen, if we're going to go to Canada, we're going to have it in Minneapolis so I can drive to the expo this year. So being the board chair, if I can't make that happen and pull a little nepotism on that. So no, we'll have an announcement very soon. Actually, over the next 2 weeks, we'll likely round it out, and then we'll make a formal announcement. So
love it. Love it. One other question I got is, why do people never charge for estimates as painters?
Yeah. Number one, we've always done it that way, which is the most harmful statement on the face of the planet. Number two, because everybody else does. That is the culture of contracting, right? It just is what it is. Small average job size, service home-based contractors do not charge for their stuff, right? They just don't. And it just is what it is. I do 1,900 estimates a year. I would love to charge $10 an estimate. You know what I mean?
1,900 estimates a year?
Yeah.
Holy guacamole.
So yeah, we got a big hungry machine, man. So I used to do 800 a year myself up until we expanded the business. So yeah, I would love to charge for estimates. The problem is I'm handcuffed by if nobody else does. I cannot take a chance on losing the opportunity for a job. I need a lot of jobs for my business and for my people. So
love that, man. Love that. One question I got was also, where was it? Sorry, just scrolling here. Best way for someone to reach $1 million if they're already not there?
Cowboy.
Just
I mean,
get your hands dirty.
Is easy. Crush hours. Yeah. Crush hours. I mean, just, okay, honest for reasoning on first principles is you do the estimates, you do the project management, you find a couple subcontractors, and you could easily do $1 million. That's a lifestyle business. And potential for take home is somewhere between 150,000 and 300,000 on something like that. So now you have to do everything. Everything is your fault. If you take a week off, nothing happens, but there's a lot of benefit to that. I mean, that's not a bad thing, but that's an easy math formula to do. Yeah.
Love it. Next question. At what point should someone hire an estimator to do the estimates for them? Should they do it in conjunction and have, two people doing estimates? And where have you found yours? Where would you recommend someone finds theirs?
I'll tell you when not to hire an estimator is when you're under $1 million in revenue. Listen, asterisk, I know people who do it. That's fine. But I would make the math-based argument that if you're doing less than $1 million of revenue, you don't have the revenue to support a true professional estimator. You can pay somebody some very small amount of money to do estimates for you, but you're not going to get a true professional estimator. I feel much more comfortable. The industry benchmarks are in res repaint in the United States and Canada is that you would like a estimator to sell at least $1.5 million of res repaint work. You would like a project manager to produce at least 1.5 of res repaint work with an average job size of about $5,000. So that's the sweet spot. That's where it really starts humming. Anything less than that, there is a budget for that, and in my company, it's between 5 and 7% for an estimator and 5 and 7% for a project manager or management. And if you go much less than that, you can just pay that. You just don't have enough money to pay them. So that's what I would do it. Where I find them, I would always go through relationships, friend networks, people and vetted and trust. Hiring strangers off of Indeed and ZipRecruiter can certainly work. I've done it, but you're going to if you only need one estimator, go to your gym, go to your church, go to your community groups, go to your friends, go to your family, and find somebody you know and trust. It's a hell of a lot easier and more effective.
Yeah, love that. And then last question, because I know we got to wrap up here. So, you shaved the beard. Did you regret it? And how long until you think it's fully grown back out?
Never regret it. I think we're on week 3 now, give or take. So I have a very developed skill in growing that. Typically, this was a voluntary shave. Typically, the only times I shave are when people like 3M have me do a respirator video, and then to be in compliance, I have to shave. It's like the old army with the gas mask days. The reason soldiers have to shave is so that a gas mask can get a good seal on their face. And it's the same thing with the respirator. Technically, I'd be out of compliance if I wore a respirator right now. So if you see me anytime during this year with a shaved face, it's likely I've been paid to do a respirator video.
Oh, I love that, Nick. This is awesome, man. You're such a good dude. And everybody who's not in the PCA that's listening to this, highly recommend you go to the PCA and sign up. Next expo, Nick's going to announce in hopefully the next few months where it's going to be. And
Topeka, Kansas, here we come, baby.
Awesome, Nick. I appreciate you so much, man. This has been definitely really eye-opening for myself. I'm sure for a bunch of our listeners. And I'm looking forward to staying connected with you.
Yeah, let's do it again sometime, Lucas. I appreciate the conversation, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Have a good one.
See ya.